Alright, respect.
Depeche.
Hey chat, I am Vengeance, and
I am simply not there.
jokes aside, my name's Depeche, and
I'm Dean.
cool. We just want to do a movie podcast, eh? Because we love movies. We've always talked about them a bunch, and we figured if we were kind of like rotting watching like hours and hours of content, we might as well make some too.
Exactly. Add to the pile.
Add to the pile. Never enough garbage on the internet, so we'll
Yeah.
add more. All right. So we thought of a few names, and we'll let chat decide which names. We're not live streaming this at all, by the way. We'll let chat decide which names we should keep. So
Mhm.
I have a suggestion.
Yeah.
Two white boys in another podcast.
Two white boys, another podcast. That's what we need. We have two white boys right here.
Right here. Let's go.
Have you seen that shirt that's like White Boy of the Year?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Oh,
like
yeah, I
some
think I've seen
DJ
it.
set where guys are
I
wearing.
think, I think you sent me that, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I need this.
Yeah, I need to get
this
the page
so
the
bad.
White Boy of the Year. Where when he asked for Drake, when he asked the DJ to play Drake.
We're not dropping that name in this podcast. He's been canceled.
Too
We do not
controversial.
condone any of Drake's music
Yeah.
or actions. On the record,
Mhm.
You got other names too?
Other names, yeah.
Yeah, let's go.
So the prompt was what is it? 5 words and under?
yeah,
Or
yeah.
it was like describe the
like that.
podcast in 5 words and under. Young Singh and John Summit B2B.
Let's go. Okay, I got two white boys written by women.
Oh yeah, that's good. That'd be good. That's our target demo.
Yeah.
A24 good, Marvel bad podcast.
Let's go. Two white boys who listen to TV Girl.
Yes. There's a lot of two white boys in these names. I'm sensing it.
That's the last one.
Yeah, okay.
Letterboxed. I barely know her boxed.
That's so. Yeah, okay. Simultaneously too old and too young to do this.
Requiem for a Dream. Watch Party Survivors.
Gatekeep, gaslight, mansplain movies. Indie sleaze, New York wannabes.
Are you lonely? I can fix that.
Taxi driver, but it's Ryan Gosling.
Okay, I got one last one. I think it's gonna be Almost 30 Crisis Support Group.
Okay, that's good. That's good. The Social Network, but they make no money.
You got more? You can go.
I have a lot.
Hit me, hit
I'm just
me.
gonna rapid fire it.
Let's go.
The Small Lebowski. It's like a run club with two people sitting down. Jake, it's TikTok down. Glebe meets Stittsville realness. Goodfellas, but they're not Italian. 3-hour movie, no plot. Anti-hipster podcast, and A24, but
A24.
it's spelled EH.
Anyway, so like the purpose of the podcast is to talk about movies, and the structure is going to be that I'm going to find a movie that I want Dean to watch, and Dean's going to find a movie that he wants me to watch. I'll start the movie that Dean asked me to watch or rewatch is the Darjeeling Limited, Wes Anderson, obviously. Just start off with a Wes Anderson movie is like so.
We have to embrace it. It's like
Cliche
8
and-
Mile when he's like insulting himself.
Yeah.
And then there's nothing that they can insult us with.
His real name's Clarence.
And Clarence has 2 married parents.
So, and the movie I wanted Dean to watch was The Man from Earth. We'll start off with talking about like the Darjeeling Limited.
Yeah.
I'm glad you asked me to watch that movie again. And when you asked me to watch it a couple of weekends ago, you told me, well, I wanted to know your opinion about Brotherhood because like I talk a lot about like my brother. And when I first watched it, so much happens in Wes Anderson movies in terms of cinematography and like color grading and like
It's
just
just beautiful.
yeah, like visual effects are really
Yeah.
nice, and I get that we're corny for liking Wes Anderson movies,
Yeah.
but like fuck it,
Fuck it. He's
fuck
good.
it, like dude, like I'm corny.
On
though.
record, Wes Anderson is good. And I
Wes
will not
Anderson's good.
apologize. Controversial take.
Yeah, like we're gonna have to take the
Oh,
podcast
God, yeah.
down when the
That's way too
controversy
loud.
comes out.
Yeah.
Did either of us check the Wes Anderson Wikipedia page
If
if
he's
there was a
canceled or
controversy
not?
section?
Oh no,
I hope
I
not.
didn't.
Like I hope there's
I
nothing
not.
there.
There's one for everyone. Literally any director
I know.
who
dude.
made a movie before the year 2020
Yeah.
probably has some skeleton.
It's
in
like
their
you never
closet.
meet your heroes or read their Wikipedia pages.
Yeah, just never.
There's
read
always
it.
some shit.
Yeah.
Anyway, jokes aside, so I rewatched the movie and like it really struck me. I'm like, holy
Mhm.
shit, yeah, this movie is about brotherhood. And it's about, I don't know, elder brother syndrome, call it that, you know, where it's like you see it in different scenes. Like in the first scene that really struck me was that they all sit down on the train, they meet.
Yeah.
He's bandaged up. The eldest brother's super bandaged up in his face. He's obviously been through some shit. And like the middle brother's like, what happened? And he just kind of glosses over.
He just ignores
Yeah,
it.
he
Completely.
ignores the
Yeah.
question, and like it's like this attitude of
I'm fine.
I'm fine. Like, don't worry about me. Like,
Yeah.
let's talk about you. And,
Yeah,
like,
you're
let
the
me
one with the problem.
criticize. But as the movie goes on, you kind of see how the eldest brother's been parenting the other two.
Yeah, trying to play the father role because like
Yeah.
their father's gone. Right?
Yeah, father
Yeah.
and mother, because the parenting language they have is downloaded so directly. Where in one of the first scenes, Francis kind of sits in the movie, and he's ordering food for all of them, but instead of asking what they want,
Yeah.
he orders for them. He's like, "You'll like this.
You'll get
like
this,
this.
you'll get this."
Who wants ice cream? Raise your
Yeah.
hand." And like near the end of the movie, when they go to India
Yeah.
and they find out their mother kind of like left and she like chose to be a nun somewhere in Nepal, I think. They go see her, and like when they actually see her for the first time, she kind of does the same thing, like almost the same fucking thing. It's like,
Yeah.
you'll like this, you'll have this, you'll like this, you'll have
Yeah.
this. Who wants ice cream? Raise your hand.
Yeah, he's just acting out what his parents were doing.
Exactly. Yeah. And like throughout the middle of the movie, it seems like everybody, the eldest, the youngest, and the middle brother, they're all reluctant participants.
Mm-hmm.
Where there's this even scene where like the middle and the eldest get in a fight, like a brawl.
Yeah.
You know, and the third one is just so agitated to make them stop. He picks up like a mace
Yeah.
and he starts macing them in the, like a
Jesus
spray
Christ.
them
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the
yeah,
face.
spraying them in the
And
eyes.
as he's doing that, he's yelling. He's like, "Don't include me! Don't include me in this."
But he's
I'm
getting
like,
pulled in. He's like
yeah,
actively
he's like,
participating.
Exactly. So I thought that was like the whole idea of like how communication between brothers can be like a little funny. People start playing roles that they're really not.
Mhm.
There's even a time where like the three of them, us, Jesus, the three of them kind of go through this like crazy moment where they save some lives and they're not able to save a life of a person.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
you'll have to watch the movie.
There's
to
like
know what's up.
drama. There's
There's,
like
like,
a
some
real
drama.
conflict that happens that they have to
Yeah.
like snap out of their kind of
Yeah.
petty squabble and like
Yeah.
interact with the real world.
And like they're later reflecting, where like they're reflecting on the idea, okay, if we weren't brothers, do you think we'd be friends?
Yeah.
And like that idea kind of stuck with me, and I'm like, I actually believe, because so many siblings are so similar,
Yeah.
but they're kind of forced together with like responsibility. It adds to the complexity,
Yeah.
where like it makes being friends harder.
Yeah. It's kind of like when you're a roommate with someone that you're friends with, and then
Mhm.
it's like the dynamic changes.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, it starts to strain the relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's kind of a thought like, oh, would we have been better friends if we didn't actually live together?
Yeah.
Or like if we weren't siblings or whatever.
Yeah, and that's such a crazy idea. I don't know. It made me reflect upon my relationship. I don't think like I'm gonna call them and be like, things have changed. Like, I'm such a different person.
We're gonna go on this spiritual
Yo,
journey
we
to
gotta-
India,
we
boys.
gotta go back home,
I'm gonna force you
yo.
to do random shit.
I've even thought of that idea of us, because the last time we hung out as adults, and it was after like a long time of us not hanging out, because before that we were kids and I moved away. We hung out as adults in like a party city, and it was this weird realization. I'm like, yo, these guys are adults too.
Yeah,
They're like grown ass men, and like
their own lives.
I don't need to like parent them. Like I
Yeah.
can just like lay off and
Mm-hmm.
we'll just have fun, and like letting go of that responsibility idea.
I have to make tonight perfect. I have to make sure they like are doing the right thing.
Or
like I have to
safety.
make sure like
or
Yeah,
safety. I think
true.
like parents too. Like parents care less about
it's like, wait, why are
happiness
you
and
leaving?
more
Like,
about are
yeah.
you safe? Are you
Yeah,
good?
exactly.
Come back home safe.
Yeah.
Come back home on time.
Get home before.
Yeah,
11.
But I'm like, they've lived just as much of a life as I have, where like,
Yeah,
we've taken care of
At
ourselves.
this
and-
point, like you guys have had so many different situations to
Yeah.
deal with, and like half of them you
Yeah.
don't even know.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
what you've gone through.
and I kind of don't want to know. It's like tell me now, like anything that happens from now. But
Yeah.
as long as you made it alive from whatever happened
that kind of
before,
worked. Yeah,
I'm
that's
glad
fine.
you did. Don't tell me though. Anyway, so I'm really glad you asked me to rewatch this. Those were my thoughts. Like,
Cool.
I don't know. Are we rating movies? Like, are we giving them a
Oh,
on
we
10?
could. We might as well. I feel like it's kind of annoying when people just like don't actually give a real
Yeah,
opinion.
very
Like they always like,
subjective.
yeah, check it out if you want to,
If you-
but if you don't, then don't.
I'll give it a 8.5 on 10.
Yeah, sick.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, because like I feel like if you don't pick up on the communication dynamic or
Yeah.
like that the fact that it's about relationships between brothers and you're kind of only focusing on the plot of the movie, you might miss a lot. Like a lot of the meat of that movie, I think, is subtext, which
Yeah.
I don't think I picked up on like the first time I watched it. I was just like, oh,
Mhm.
like cool location, like pretty visuals.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I just thought it wasn't like as deep as many of his like other movies, but like this whole kind of like dynamic of just men interacting with each other and talking past each other is I think really interesting.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you find anything similar in your sibling relationship? Because I know you also have a sister.
Yeah, I mean like we did have disagreements, but I feel like it's kind of different when you have same gender siblings. Like I've
Mhm.
noticed this, and we talked with a bunch of our friends actually
Yeah.
when we were all driving together, and like I was talking to a bunch of my different friends about how they fight with their siblings, and I feel like same gender siblings have just much more aggressive arguments and fights with
Mm.
each other, whereas like me and my sister, like we would have arguments when we were kids, like every pair of siblings does, but we would kind of almost just like go.
Hello. So it just goes there.
Yeah. So we're back, guys.
back.
We're back. Literally nothing has changed,
Same thing.
and we're back where we were. So I was saying before, me and my sister would have little fights like every pair of siblings does, but I feel like we were kind of in different worlds. Like we were interested in different things, so we would just kind of go off and do our own thing. Whereas I feel like when you have a same gender relationship, you're stuck with each other all the time, that you like can't really escape it. Like you're probably, if you're doing sports, you're probably doing soccer for the same recreational soccer team. So you're probably like seeing your brother at that. You're probably at the same school and you're seeing your brother in all your classes. Like whereas with my sister, I feel like we were just kind of like in different, like we would just do different things. So then we actually had space to be apart. So if there was like an argument, it would kind of diffuse over time because you had that space. You weren't like forced to be with each other all the time. And I feel like same gender siblings kind of are just forced to be around each other a lot more. And then they're also compared because they have more similarities. So then that might kind of cause a bit more competition or a little bit more arguments to come out of it. But that was my take on it from like my like background, I guess.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I think that gives me more perspective too.
Cause yeah, just like seeing how they squabble in the movie and like having conversations with my friends who are like twins or like have 3 sisters
Yeah.
or whatever. It seems to be the fighting can get kind of escalated.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't think I ever got that angry.
It's unhinged. We'll both kind of reflect on this, like all, or like the 3 of us, if I had to include my cousins too. We look back and we're like, what the fuck was that? Like,
Yeah. What were we
what was I
thinking?
mad about?
Why were we that angry?
Why am I so irritable?
Yeah.
It's sick.
But yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed the movie because
Thanks,
like it was honestly one that I I had watched a lot of when I was younger and I didn't really understand it, but I feel like having this conversation made it make more sense to me.
Yeah.
And there's also a really good Nerd Writer video essay on it, and it's just all about communication styles.
Mm-hmm.
And then he also does another one about like interfamily communication, a video essay about this movie called, I think it's like the Merowitz Family or something. It has like Adam Sandler in like a serious acting role, and he's like really good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like a surprisingly good. Ben Stiller's in it too. It's
Okay.
like a super cheap kind of like offbeat, I guess interfamily kind of dramedy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's a good one to check out too if you're into the
Mm.
themes that Darjeeling tackles.
Yeah, I'll definitely check that out.
So yeah, the movie that you asked me to watch was
Mhm.
The Man from Earth,
Mm-hmm.
and so I don't want to spoil it, but I'm going to spoil it. Actually, yeah, I want to spoil it. What am I saying? But the basic idea of the movie is there's this professor who's moving, and he has his colleagues come for a goodbye party, and they get to talking in his house where all his things are being moved away, and he brings up this idea of what if there was a man who just never died. Like, what if there was a prehistoric man who was born and just didn't age? what would that look like, and how would that play out in society? And then so they start kind of going through this thought experiment, and all the different professors chime in, and there's like anthropologists and archaeologists and geologists and history buffs, and they're all psychology professors, and they're all taking their own angle on it, kind of based on their background as teachers. And so like they're talking about like, oh, this might have been where the myth of the vampire came, where there's this undying vampire, this undying man, who had always existed, and like different rumors spread around how he's like stealing people's blood to stay immortal. So maybe that was kind of something that came as a result of this one person that existed. So they're talking through this thought experiment, and then the main character, who's this professor, there's a little more context to it. So he had been working with these people for 10 years, and now he's moving, and he doesn't have a plan, which they think is kind of weird. But then he admits that he is this man that has just been around since prehistoric time, and he's seen basically everything humanity has gone through. And then his friends are like joking about it, like, oh, obviously this is a joke, like that's very clever, like that's a really good book topic idea for your like next book you want to write as a professor to get famous or whatever. But then some of them start taking it seriously, and then they start arguing about it, and it gets intense, and that's kind of like the main meat of the movie. And I feel like that idea is just so cool, and I had so much respect for the movie just based on the fact that it's all filmed in one location, off of like this movie could have been made for free today, which is so cool. Like you could have filmed this with your iPhone, because there's no real location. It's just one house that's being moved out. So I think on a meta level, this movie just inspired me that like you can make a feature-length film with nothing, and it can be really good, because the whole thing that carries this is the dialogue and the script and the conversations between characters. And the entire time I was engaged, because I'm like, oh, is he really the dude who is he actually immortal? Is he just fucking with him? And it led me down all these different thought paths, and it was fun to like think about as a thought experiment. It was just exciting to go through this story and follow it. So my line of thinking with it was like, oh, obviously like that's impossible, because even if there was someone that didn't age, like through luck, they would have died from disease or whatever, or something like that. But then the movie is really fun because they have the different characters basically bring up all the thoughts that you would have, and then the main character kind of refutes them in a way, and you're like, oh, that's kind of a plausible refutation of that, I guess, argument against it being possible. So I thought it was really fun. But yeah, I was kind of like, oh, he would have been taken out by disease, but then they were like, oh, what if the guy just didn't get diseases, or like what if his body was so powerful, his immune system over all those hundreds of years was so powerful it just wouldn't die from disease. And then in my head I was kind of thinking, I don't think they addressed this one, but I'm like, the odds that he would have just been hit by a truck randomly one day, or like fallen down a ladder, like I feel like it's literally impossible that someone could have done that.
Yeah,
because like you probably would have just been like,
car accidents.
Like car accidents are very common.
Yeah.
So like the odds that you didn't die in a car accident would be very low.
Yeah. Like yeah, because he's not Wolverine, where like he'll freaking come
he
back
can't
from
survive
nothing.
a bullet shot to the head.
Yeah.
So like he is a human being. So I was thinking like over a long enough time period,
something would happen.
Something would have happened. So I'm like, okay, he's obviously fucking with them.
Yeah.
But then there's different levels to like how he could be fucking with them, where it's like he's crazy and he believes everything he's saying, and he actually is aging, but he's just one of those guys. Because at one point in the movie, he brings up that like he's Jesus, and that like Christianity was written about him, and it's like, okay, how many people exist that think they're Jesus? And it's like, that's a non-zero percentage of the normal population that believes crazy things like that.
Yeah.
But then like the movie's great, and it kept me engaged the whole time, because then it comes back with there's parts where like it draws you back in. You're like, okay, because like he says things to there's like one character that attacks him, and then he basically defends himself perfectly. But the guy that attacked him was like, wait, I'm like a black belt in like jiu-jitsu or whatever. So it's like he shouldn't have been able to block me like that.
Yeah.
And then the I think the main tell, like from the plot perspective, that it's real is that he's telling people things about themselves that no one else would know. Because I think at the end he reveals that he's like the father of one of the characters.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, then it must be real. Or he's like, he knows so much about this guy's life and he's committing to the bit. But I think it is possible that he's real. Or I think it's the most likely explanation is that he is immortal within the context of the movie. And then I was thinking, but like, okay, what are the odds? Like, he wouldn't have been hit by a truck by now. Like, if you run out the probabilities, there's so many ways a human being would just die randomly.
Yeah.
From like a stray bullet, from a car crash, from a tsunami, from a tornado, whatever. But then it got me thinking about parallel universes, and I'm like, okay, what if this is like there's an almost infinite amount of parallel universes, and this is just the universe where this type of guy existed.
Yeah.
And he, through luck, was never hit by a car, never shot by a bullet, whatever. So my final conclusion from watching the movie was, okay, it's legit. Like, he actually has been alive within the context of this movie forever. And it was just so fun. It was like such a cool idea to like kind of like think through and like a thought experiment. It was very fun. I feel like it's definitely a movie that people watch to feel smart. But like, I don't think that's bad. It's just like that was like an observation I had.
You're allowed to validate yourself.
Yeah.
You want something that's not like Iron Man 4, Return of the Bazinga Man. Like,
exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's
like,
not just like a standard plot.
Not that those
action
movies
and
are
whatever.
bad. I mean, they are kind of bad. But like, I think like, like I like this movie because it shows that you can do. I'd call this sci-fi.
Yeah.
Right?
Sci-fi without visual effects,
which is crazy. And if you can do that, like, and like exactly what you said, it's like it's such a low budget movie. I looked up the numbers. This is like a fun fact.
Yeah.
They made the movie paying everybody that acted in it, equipment, whatever, in under $200K.
That's sick. Yeah,
like,
for a movie, that's nuts.
And those are good actors. Like, they're like theater, like TV, movie actors.
They do really good job.
So yeah, like they do a great job, and like $200K, you can buy a freaking studio condo in Ottawa for that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
that's like cheap.
And
nowadays.
If you look at the Marvel movies, they're like in the 100 millions now.
Exactly, it's nuts. Yeah,
how much it takes to make them, maybe more, but like it's an insane amount.
The things that were kind of noticeable to me, I was like, okay, this like doesn't look as like crisp as like higher budget movies I've seen, and I think the main tell of the low budget was the soundtrack. Like the music seemed pretty dated and off, but I don't think I would have noticed that unless I was actually consciously reviewing it.
Yeah.
Because I was consciously reviewing it and thinking of things I was going to bring up in this conversation, I brought that up.
Yeah.
But just as someone who would watch the movie for fun, I don't think it would have taken me out of the experience at all.
Yeah.
So I loved it. So I'm really glad you shared it with me because it was exciting, and I hadn't seen an offbeat like indie movie like that in a while that like really struck me, and I just like felt like the overall feeling I got from it was like, oh, I can do it too. It was just like very exciting in that sense of like anyone could do this.
Yeah, you just need an iPhone.
So cool.
14
You just need
Pro.
an idea. Yeah,
let's go, baby.
You just need thousands of dollars of technology built
no,
in far off lands.
But it's technology we all have anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Or like even like you can get really cheap like early iPhone 8s for like under $500, and if you have the right lighting setup, and then you have enough people you're your friends that can act, like you could do this based on the resources you have.
Yeah.
And like pretty much anyone can do that anywhere in the world, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And it could be in any language, and it's just like if you can create dialogue that is realistic and engaging, the whole movie can be, because usually that's an issue when a whole movie is dialogue and exposition focused. But I think because it all centers around this thought experiment that is gripping and there's no real answer to it, it kept it engaging the whole time. So I really liked it.
Yeah, I'm glad you liked it. What would you rate it on 10?
I don't know. Can you really rate art?
What would you rate it? You're the best. You're the best.
Yes.
What should I review next?
Yeah. Yeah, we should call this podcast the Needle Drop. I'd say I can't copy you. 8.5.
Yeah, I respect that.
Too good.
It's all good. We can do obscure like
9.4. I'd say 9.
9?
Honestly,
yeah, okay,
which is like high respect. And maybe it's because I haven't seen movies in a while, but just from the overall feeling of like, oh, anyone could do this and make something that's like really fun and engaging and unique.
Yeah.
I think that was just a really cool feeling to experience. So thank you for that.
No worries. Yeah. I'll drop a couple other fun facts. I think so. First time I watched this movie was when I was like maybe 15.
Take the stupid glasses
Yeah,
off.
Jesus. First time I watched this, I was like 15, 16, and I did feel smart
Whoa.
when I watched it. Yes.
Yeah, you're like, oh, I'm so smart.
But like the way I found this movie is because not me, my buddy Fake Hish used to torrent a lot, and this movie is like a torrent movie classic. Like it was one of the like most downloaded movies on whatever BitTorrent, Pirate Bay, whatever shit you downloaded the stuff from, and like this isn't one of those movies where like the studio lost out on a lot of money. Like the producer, I think his name's Eric, but he actually went publicly thanked the BitTorrent community because when they released this movie, it came out on one of the Comic Cons.
Yeah.
They screenplayed it there.
Yeah.
Maybe like a few theaters had this, but nobody knew about it after.
There's
it
no
went
wide
offline.
release.
No
Like
wide
the weekend
release,
it came
no
out,
crazy
nothing really
marketing.
happened. Yeah.
Yeah. So this kind of came back, and it
Because they
became
had no
like
marketing
this,
budget.
Yeah. It came back as a cult classic.
Yeah.
So like it's like the online torrenting community found this movie,
Yeah.
and they made it famous.
It's
so much
all
so-
through word of mouth,
Yeah.
which is crazy.
Yeah, and it came
like
back,
digital word of mouth.
and they had like a fundraising Indiegogo or whatever, one of those online fundraising websites.
Yeah.
They made a sequel.
Yeah, I saw the trailer for the
Yeah.
sequel.
It is a higher budget.
Yeah.
It is still good, still pretty good. Maybe not as good as the first one, and it does add a little bit more action and some sci-fi. No special effects, but like some sci-fi action to it. I liked it. It's a little faster paced too. So I think you can check that out at another time. But anyway, I'm super happy that you watched this movie. I know like one other person that's watched this movie ever.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's
there's
cool.
only one person.
Yeah.
Like shout out Emily,
Nice.
and like she's seen it, and I'm like, oh my god, like, cause anytime I talk to somebody, they're
no
like,
one knows
they
what
have
the
no
fuck you're
freaking
talking
idea.
about. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah. It's cool. We're spreading the word again.
Hell yeah.
New wave of
But
the
but
Man
now
from
you can
Earth
in
viewers.
Canada you can watch it on Amazon Prime. Don't torrent.
Yeah, it was
know.
free, so I watched it. Well,
Yeah.
not free. I pay for Prime, but it's
Yeah.
easily accessible
Yeah.
in a
I'm
way.
sh-
Like pretty much everyone has Prime, right? So,
yeah. Everybody should have.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. Everybody should have Prime. We gotta let
When the government
billionaires make
mandates that
even more
everyone
money.
has Prime in 2 years,
when we become
it'll be accessible to all.
when the only jobs available is Amazon warehouse worker and what's the other one?
I think it's gonna be movie podcast reviewer and Amazon warehouse worker. the two jobs in 2030.
We're getting in early.
We're getting in early. Yeah. This is actually our internship.
We're gonna monopolize this industry before somebody else gets in.
Get in early.
Yeah.
Buy now. Invest now. All right, sick. Cool.
How do we end this?
I don't know.
Funny catchphrase we can say.
Yeah. Subscribe to our Patreon. Send us money. Buy shirts. Buy
Sponsored.
buy our
not
NFTs.
Not sponsored by Audible.
Not sponsored
Not
by
this one.
Amazon Prime.
But Jeff
We'll catch you in the
Bezos,
next one.
We'll catch you in the next one. I'd see ya.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.